So the transition in the School District of Philadelphia to the science of reading has been a long journey, which continues to emphasize the amount of time that it takes for research to become part of practice, and connecting to what I said earlier of how important it is for research to get into classrooms where it belongs. So back in between 2014 and 2017, the district was employing a balanced literacy approach. We had a partnership with CLI to provide coaching. And during that time, we established the 120-minute literacy block. And the coaching with CLI and our district initiatives focused around teachers becoming proficient at balanced literacy. One of the things that we emphasize is when you know better, you do better. And when you learn and you as the research begins to evolve, you bring that into this atmosphere. And what happened was the district central office literacy team began to learn about the science of reading. And in the 2017 and the 2018 school year, there was a shift from balanced literacy to the science of reading. And that shift took place through knowledge building of the central office team. At the time, we had early literacy directors. So there was knowledge building that was happening with the early literacy directors, which then shifted into our district's academic framework. It also shifted into our professional development that was offered across the district. And the ELA team in particular, they participated in Pathways to Literacy that was facilitated by the AIM Academy, as well as other webinars that were offered nationally, as well as through PDE on the science of reading. So one of the points that was really critical early on is to make sure that there's an emphasis on building knowledge around the science of reading. I see in the chat, Jenny offered that Read by Fourth launched its staff efforts in the summer of 2015 as a reference. In between 2019 and 2020 is really when we designed our guidance to really look at implementation of science of reading practices in our networks. At the time, again, we had early literacy directors that were assigned to networks across the district, and they were providing that support at the network level. We also redesigned our curriculum and our ELA block to include 15 minutes of phonemic awareness. So not only just focusing on phonics and the content with reading the text, we also built in an additional 15 minutes around phonemic awareness. And then we increased our direct and explicit phonics instruction to 45 minutes. And that all took place in 2019 and 2020. We're all aware that we were in the midst of the pandemic as the district was making this shift from balanced literacy to the science of reading. So in 2021, we continued our professional learning and implementation of the foundational skills instruction in our early literacy classrooms, grades K through 3. We focused on high frequency words with orthographic mapping, and we began to remove leveled readers and brought in decodable text as we began to understand that it was the connection between the decodable text and the foundational skills that would really emphasize early reading for our students. So there was less emphasis on providing leveled readers and more emphasis on providing decodable texts that were provided to schools across the district. In 2022 to 2023, we conducted a virtual institute for the science of reading, as well as a foundational skills summer institute for our teachers. Go back to the last slide.
All right.
So we hosted these two opportunities again to continue to build our teachers' knowledge based around the science of reading. We again aligned our PLC guides. So across the district, schools have professional learning community time. So we matched our professional learning community guides with the science of reading so that it could drive questions and things that would be happening in the professional learning communities would all be focused around the science of reading. We revised our ELA instructional guide with stronger alignment to the science of reading. And then we replaced our word walls with sound walls. So this is an early journey that the district went through to make this shift to the science of reading. And I want to continue to emphasize that this work is still ongoing. As you all are aware, retention is a challenge here in our district, and we are constantly having new teachers into our district. So the efforts that I'll talk about later on is how we're intentionally making sure that we're building the knowledge base of our new teachers that are coming into our district around the science of reading with support from the William Penn Foundation. But these are the early bodies of work that our district has engaged in and continue to engage in as we aim to bring the science of reading to the classrooms where it belongs. Next slide.
Thank you, Nye. I did just want to add that this trajectory is not unique to the district, in that many districts across the country are experiencing a similar shift, maybe not, the exact time frame or time or steps, but are going through the same transition. So
I think it's worth just really congratulating you all on, even if others were doing it too, on making such huge shifts in practice during a pandemic when other things were also being layered on teachers and schools.
Yeah, thanks.
I think the pandemic offered us a gift. It offered us the gift to be still and really focus on the things that matter. And I think in the pandemic, I think we had a lot of people's attention. So I think it was a very critical time for us to even begin those efforts and not to wait until after the pandemic, because all eyes were on what do we need to do to ensure that our children are learning in this new virtual space. So I thought it was pretty powerful that we took that step in the midst of the pandemic. I am really excited about all of the initiatives that, in partnership with Read by Fourth and others that have been on, that are on this call, and really the support around building our internal systems capacity around the science of reading. As we will talk about later, one of the district's goals around accelerating student achievement is adopting high quality instructional resources aligned with the science of reading in partnership with parents, school leaders, and teachers. But one of the things that was emphasized at the AIM Symposium was the importance of building knowledge as well. So one of our strategies have been around building knowledge so that when teachers and leaders begin to have access to these high quality instructional resources, they have the connection between the science and what the actual implementation looks like through these high quality instructional materials. So we have Rising Reading Specialists Collaborative, which is a group of teachers across our system who hold reading specialist certifications that were eager to learn about the science of reading and evidence-based practices. We brought them into this collaborative group to do sustained training over the year. This professional learning happens outside of our district-wide professional. We'll have reading specialists in service development. And again, we call these in-service development because they're sustained, again, over time. And we're working with reading specialists across our system to provide them with intensive professional learning around the science of reading. And the actual book that they're using in this cohort is Speech to Print. Speech to Print is one of the texts that this group is really digging deep in and using to build their knowledge base around the science of reading. And then shout out to Nancy, I'm not sure if she's on here, in partnership with one of our reading directors, we have a small group of principals that are in a community of practice to learn all about the science of reading. And then they're taking their knowledge and they're going in walkthroughs at each of the different leaders' schools to see what the current state of what the science of reading looks like in their classrooms, which is absolutely where we want to see the practices happening. And if we can build knowledge base around our school leaders, that gives us that direct access to what is happening in the buildings on a day-to-day basis. So we want to continue to expand our efforts with principals. Next year, there will be an emphasis on a monthly basis with all principals across the district on the science of reading, paired with our high quality instructional resource. So excited about that. We've also purchased the Introduction to Structured Literacy course, where we have about 600 participants are going through that course to really understand the science of reading approach. And we're leveraging that virtual course because we know that we have teachers that have said that they want learning virtually. We have teachers that want learning in person. So we're trying to give a wide range of opportunities to our participants. And then finally, what Jenny was talking about earlier, we are so excited to offer this Foundational Skills Institute. It's going to be a Science of Reading Institute paired with our high quality instructional resources. And we've actually upped the registration to, I believe, 1,500 participants for a 4-day-long institute for K-3 ELA teachers. And they're going to get a series of experiences around the science of reading paired with our new resources that they will be implementing in the fall. So they're actually getting access to the high quality instructional materials prior to the start of the school year, which was something that we heard from our principal stakeholder groups as well as teacher stakeholder groups, was that they wanted professional learning prior to the start of the school year. So we're really excited about this institute. It is going to be a big deal. We're going to have keynote speakers, and we're bringing out all of the bells and whistles to make sure that our teachers have access to this knowledge early on, again, as we're building out our implementation of these high quality instructional resources. And we really wanted to help people to understand how the high quality instructional resource that we selected is aligned with the science of reading. And here's what I will say about this process to even getting to selecting a high quality instructional resource. All of that knowledge building that took place over time allowed our team to develop a rubric that really helped us deeply examine these resources. And while some states, Donna talked about it earlier, some states already have a list of resources that they vetted at the state level to say, these are the high quality resources that you should select. We don't have that here in Pennsylvania yet. But what this team did was really look at the evidence-based research around the science of reading and culturally responsive instruction when examining the wide range of materials that were submitted to be our resource. I will also say that we also consulted with Ed Reports to really look at what Ed Reports had this particular resource rated, and it is rated in green for usability as well as alignment to college and career readiness. So those two things were very important to us, in addition to looking at how this resource aligned with the science of reading, in addition to examining the text to ensure that those texts were culturally responsive and represented of the children here in the School District of Philadelphia. So the two things that we want people to know is that L Education has a K-2 reading foundation skills block paired with the knowledge building content literacy based models. So that those two pieces together really brings the science of reading to life. And the other thing that I will say about any instructional resource is that the implementation is just as important as the adoption, and then also the monitoring of the implementation over time, because we don't want to just say, okay, check, we've purchased the resource, we're done. We must look at the implementation over time, continually monitoring our data to see if the resource is really giving us the return on investment, which is our children. And where we see gaps, we have to be ready to respond to those gaps in any resource. And I always say there's no one perfect resource that does all the things that we need for all of our children that we're serving. But we recognize that at Tier 1, we wanted to build a strong foundation for all students, and knowing that we will be looking at what additional supports and requirements are going to be needed over time for students that are continuing to need additional support beyond Tier 1. So our implementation strategy, again, is teachers in all grade levels will have access and will implement high quality curriculum. What is different about this time and our previous strategy, I failed to mention, is that previously across the district, teachers may have had access to different resources. This time we have adopted one resource that will be universally used across our entire system, because we recognize that there's a transient nature of our students as well. We want to make sure that regardless of what school they're attending, they will always have access to the same high quality instructional resource. All teachers and leaders and parents, I might add, will have access to introductory and ongoing curriculum-based professional learning and support throughout the school year that is specific to the instructional resource. So we're not just looking at district-wide professional learning, as that is one area we do provide professional learning. We're also doing professional learning communities, which is something that happens on a regular basis in our schools. And we're really paying close attention to what is happening in that time and really looking at how effective professional learning communities are on teachers' ability to transform their practice in classrooms. Again, we're continuing to host our leadership convenings, which for the most part have been monthly, and we're going to be providing professional learning to our leaders. And then we're offering summer learning and other supplemental learning opportunities. One of the things that I'm proud to say is that we heard from our teachers loud and clear that they want professional learning outside of the school day, in the summer, on Saturdays, and they are willing to attend that professional learning. We just are starting to offer some professional learning on Saturdays for math right now. And we see that for the first session, we already have 91 teachers signed up. So I do believe that our teachers are committed to learning and understanding all of this work, and we have to create the systems and structures to get that information to our teachers.